Reese Witherspoon stars and executive producers of Apple TV's original drama series, The Morning Show. So I have to really start with the question of the moment, which is, what is it like to see this show arrive and land finally when many of the stories that it was inspired by are back in the headlines in an even more dramatic way?
I mean, it's odd.
It's uncanny, isn't it?
It's uncanny how prescient it is, kind of, in a way, because we had some information, but we didn't have a lot of the information that's going to unfold. Basically, towards the end of the show is
it's as if somehow it had been snuck in there.
Yeah, but it's an amalgam of lots of different things,
Yes.
and unfortunately, gross negligence happens across many platforms and many companies. So we had a lot of information, and
the fact that Carrie Aaron, I have to say, was able to tap into it and not a part of that world in any way, and she was able to create a world and create characters that were so layered and complicated and honest and messy. We even said to her, like, "Are you psychic?"
I think she's psychic.
Awesome.
You two have probably done, between you, dozens if not hundreds of morning show appearances in your careers, and what did you take from your experience on those shows, and also did you research with some of the people who worked in that arena to get these characters going?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I did. I went to New York, and GMA was kind enough to allow me in at 5 o'clock in the morning and walk through that world from 5 to 7, which is just an insane engine that revs up and then just explodes, and it's done with such ease and grace. By the end, you actually think there's no way this is going to actually happen. This is not going to end well, and it just does. And it's also the lives of these people. They live these lives of vampires, underground, in the night, and constantly just figuring out what they're going to tell all of us, so hopefully we don't feel so crappy throughout the day.
They do get to travel in New York when there's less traffic. That's the
Exactly.
benefit of doing it at 5 in the morning. But what was the most surprising thing that you learned about their world as you were researching this?
Well, they all actually are, even Diane Sawyer, it's never easy. Waking up at 3:30 never gets comfortable. They hate it.
So, Reese, what I was struck by when I saw the first couple of episodes, you've played in the past a lot of real straight arrows who then kind of bust out in Big Little Lies, Election, a lot of characters that are sort of in a box and then they act out a little bit. Here I feel like you're going the opposite direction. You're starting out as a real firebrand, and then maybe they're going to put you in a box. They're going to try.
You wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, was there someone that you drew on for this particular character? I mean, she comes in extremely hot
I
in the
definitely
beginning.
looked at people who have no impulse control, and I think my character also just has this tendency to say things and then think about it later, as you'll see more as the episodes go on. It was really fun to play. That first scene was really hard with the coal. Oh my gosh.
It was one of your first, and you were sick.
It was my very first scene, I think,
Yeah.
and I had to memorize all those words, and I was like, what are these words? And I think I made up like half of them, guys. I'm gonna be real. I
They were like triple the amount at the table read. Triple the amount at the table read.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
I was
during the table read, I was like, well, this is impossible. You're gonna need an earwig. There's no way. You have to actually learn what all those, I didn't know what half of that meant.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I made them up. They're not real.
You're gonna get busted on that.
So,
I think
Jen,
they said geranium and then and they made me go back in and ADR it. They're like, geranium's a flower. Yeah, but it's also coal.
one thing, and I heard Mimi Leader talk about this too, there are a lot of scenes, Jen, where the camera really lingers on your face in the mirror, your face as you're going through a lot of emotions. It's like a very intense close up for more seconds than I think we're comfortable with, certainly from your old network TV world. How does it feel to be back in that TV lens after a while?
Well, that's not what my TV lens used to be. I did not have that kind of slow, terrifying, slow panning into my thoughts.
Right.
And it doesn't really feel different. I mean, to be honest, this is a schedule that is like our film schedule, but with more dialogue during the day.
Okay.
And longer, yeah.
It's like making, by the time we got to the end of it, it was like we'd made 3 movies.
Yeah. Oh, great.
We've only seen one of them, unfortunately. So there's a key moment where Alex says she's running on instinct and impulse.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, she's externally showing a pretty controlled woman to the world. So how did you find that balance for her?
Well, that's sort of one of the wonderful things about Alex's character is the layers that she is, that I was able to access, the human being, and then the woman that has to sort of pull it all together and say good morning to America. And that's and then you have such a deeper appreciation for these anchors in the morning, because life is happening and they're there for us. They're our mom and pa, and waking up, and they're comfort food for us. They're our constant. It's comforting. And then they also have life happening, crumbling down around them, or whatever.
Or in the chair next to them.
Sorry?
In the chair next to them with
Yes,
with
exactly.
Steve's character.
And have to still sort of show up. I mean, we experience it in a very small way, but there's something similar.
There's something about being on live TV too that is terrifying.
Terrifying.
Because you can make so many mistakes. I mean, I think back to one of your first questions about when is the thing that's so surprising? I think the way that they synthesize information and then it's something terribly tragic and then transition to something really upbeat is so weird.
Transitions.
Yeah, there was a train crash and also vitamin D. And Jen, I remember walking on set and Jen, she just had her newscaster voice, and I was like, I don't have my newscaster voice yet. And I was like, how did you get that newscaster? And she was like, I watched a lot of newscasters. Shit!
That's what was so fun. You weren't supposed to really.
I wasn't really supposed to be very practiced or polished, but it was mesmerizing watching you do it. And then we had a really fun day where Diane Sawyer came to set and watched us do our newscaster.
Yes.
What was the feedback?
And we were talking about sunglasses and wig. It was really kind of inane stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't something, I don't know.
No, but then we had to talk about Turkmenistan or something like that. And it was really confusing. And Diane was laughing.
Yeah.
Wasn't she?
We were laughing.
We were laughing.
We got the giggle.
So these characters are set up by the show, seemingly, and by the circumstances as competitors.
Mm-hmm.
But you think Alex and Bradley are not going to play that game, or are they? But how did you, both creatively during the development, but also in building your characters, talk about how you wanted to upend some of those entrenched ideas about women in the workplace, always being in competition, there's only room for one? How did that work into your development of your characters, and without revealing too much about what happens after this episode?
I think we felt strongly it wasn't supposed to be this acrimonious or adversarial relationship. It was actually just two women with different ideology kind of having to exist in the same space. But there aren't a lot of references for two women in space, right? Two strong female leads in a piece of material. I mean, this is just sort of a new thing that's kind of happening now in dramatic premium television. And so it was kind of Wild Wild West, whatever we wanted to make it. And our relationship goes up and down.
Goes up and down. They're finding their way in this new normal, which everybody is trying to navigate, and also realizing they're at a break. Well, for my character, she's at a breaking point. She's kind of losing it a little bit, which also keeps escalating, and then we're all just trying to figure out this new playbook, which is actually really fun because we were able to take creative license and sort of create a world that, that's what's so fun about art in general.
I know that in this room, the scene at the end of the first episode where you two kind of throw down or have the interview about Bradley's experience at the coal mine it's got a big reaction in here, and seeing you two finally kind of get to be head to head, or whatever you want to call it, for that scene. Was that like how did that feel for you two with that first kind of, it's not a confrontation,
No.
exactly, but it's something.
Yeah. It was a really fun day. It was a long day. I think I think as we filmed it, the day we filmed it, I didn't realize it was gonna have that much impact, because that's what people walk away with. So a lot of people who have seen it really kind of take that scene and go, that is so intense to watch them finally kind of come together. But I just thought it was fun.
It was really fun.
It was fun to watch. You are on your phones a lot in this show.
I was like, I am not.
Well, it's very true to life in media, and I'm sure it works fine for Apple product placement. But speaking as, The Hollywood Reporter also had its moment in the second episode. So, there's a news clip that comes up from THR. But how do you act opposite a phone?
Are there big scenes with the phone?
You're in the hallway a lot on your phone, holding
Yeah,
it
that's
up.
life. Like,
Maybe
yes, everybody on the phone.
probably more Alex than Bradley. But.
Oh my lord. Just draw from experience.
You have to know these media people are on their phone constantly. I mean, Twitter constantly.
It's crazy to watch that.
You can't be a beat behind. You can't be a minute behind. And if you're a day late, you've lost the story.
Mm-hmm.
So much competitive people scooping you is a huge deal. I learned so much about how competitive the just between networks. Because you're talking about a $500 million enterprise, and if you drop in the ratings to second, you lose about $100 million in advertising. So that's what that whole ratings war was. Was that clear in the show?
Yeah.
Was that clear? Yeah. Good. I'm glad. Because you think it's a high stakes world.
Reese, you're working with shows on multiple platforms, Hulu, Little Fires Everywhere, HBO Big Little Lies. How did you decide that Apple was the place for this show? I know you had other bidders, I know you had other people courting it. How did you decide this was the right creative partner for this show?
Well, Jen and I talked about it a lot. I mean, we went back and forth. We had like 2 or 3 days where we really spoke to everyone and really heard everything that everybody had to say. And Apple just came up with a proposal that was felt very cutting edge. It felt like the story. It felt like they were going to allow us to really push creative boundaries. And we were nervous.
Yeah, because they didn't know what they were doing. They literally said, we don't have offices.
Right.
And we were like, neither do we. This is cool. It felt very wild, wild west, as you said. And that was exciting, because at the end of the day, Apple does things pretty well.
Yeah.
And they were about quality, not necessarily quantity. And they've been awesome partners, because we have been allowed such creative freedom.
Well, it's a big opportunity, but also a little bit of a risk to be the first big show, or among the first big shows on this platform. Like, all eyes are going to be on these shows on November 1st. So are you ready for that onslaught?
Well, now I am.
So you both were executive producers on this, obviously working on it together from the beginning. What was did your involvement, was it sort of sustained through the whole process? Was it greater during development, continued during shooting?
Every day. And when we were working on set and doing scenes, we'd be looking at drafts of a script, and then we'd go to a read-through, then we'd give notes, then we'd be looking at an edit of one of the episodes, and it was just
constant.
It was constant.
It was fantastic.
It was so nice.
It was really fun to be, for us, as we've been doing this for a long time. And so to be where we are and doing what we are allowed to do together right now, in this day and age, in this time, being a part of something that's starting from the ground up, we were pretty excited about it. So.
And to have people listen to it. It was really extraordinary.
And a female showrunner and a female director, at least in the
That's
first
right.
2 episodes. So between Alex and Bradley, who would you want to get your morning news from?
Alex. It all depends on what blows your hair back, right?
Alex. I have to say, when I was doing the scene where I have to talk to you about Cole, and I was so nervous.
So was I.
Were you?
Oh yeah.
But she had this outfit on, and then she has these like fake assistants, and they look kind of real, and they're ready to walk, and she's like wearing her glasses, and I was like, it was like, the presence of it was very, it just felt perfect. And I feel like this is, I can't imagine an actor more perfect for a role than Jennifer in this particular role, right? So perfect about it, because we know you and love you, but it's almost like this tiny peek at like, what is it really like to be known in the world, everywhere, the good, the bad, the pretty, the terrifying, all of it. So it just deepens the love for you, I think.
I don't even know what to say. And we're back.
Well, it is fun to see you back, and I'm gonna guess this is not unrelated maybe to the fact that you recently joined Instagram. Within days, 16, I'm all of you. Within days, as of this afternoon, it's probably grown since then. You have more than 16 million followers. Reese however has more than 20, so, you know.
I've been on for 5 years, she's been on for 3 years.
But what did convince you to finally do it, and did you seek some tips from your expert co-star and co-executive producer?
Well, I watch her expertly do it and effortlessly. Like, it's never in your face. I know there's people that are kind of constantly doing it, and it feels like a little too much. But of course, I asked friends and sort of just felt, listen, this isn't going to go away, and so, why not? Join them. And I really want it to be over. Oh God, okay, is that more?
I think you're
I'm
very
kidding,
good at it.
it's actually quite fun, and it's fun.
Reese, with a little more social media experience under your belt, Reese, has there been any bad social media moments for you?
Yes!
Oh.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, what do you do about that?
You realize that everybody has it, and it's like white noise, right?
Yeah.
And anything that's there, nobody remembers the next day. You can't remember it 3 minutes later. And you're gonna mess. I mean, we all mess up. You make mistakes. You say sorry in a genuine way.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry.
Where you two have acted before together on Friends as the Green Sisters, Rachel and Mel. Where we're not going to talk about a Friends reunion, but where would the Green Sisters be today?
Right here.
In morning. Need another chair for Christina.
Yes, we need Christina up here. I don't know where we would be. No, Christina.
Oh, she's so great. She's on another show.
I know. It's all right. I'm sure we can. Oh, hello, little animal.
So this is a sort of a question maybe for the Bradley actress. Growing up, what kinds of things did you get in trouble for?
Being sassy, having a smart mouth, being too opinionated. I got suspended in high school for telling the English teacher that I didn't think the homework was hard enough.
Oh.
What a dork! She was like, I'm sorry, it's not hard enough. And I got sent to the principal. She was like, Reese, you can't, even if you think it, you just can't say that to You can't say that to the teacher. I was like, why not? Who wants to know?
You are Riley Jackson.
So natural.
Tracy Fleck or something. I don't know.
And what about you, Jen? What was your?
I was sent out of the room all the time, but not for saying things weren't hard enough. Because I would daydream and we would pass notes and we'd try to outlaugh each other. So that I always got somehow I laughed the hardest and get out of the room, and then I'd be psyched to be out of the room. So that's my experience. The fact that I graduated high school is a miracle. And what else did I get in trouble for? Yeah, daydreaming. I was daydreaming and not being,
Okay, so and speaking of being in trouble, which of your cast members, not just each other, but any of your cast members, which would you want to bail you out if you were in jail for some reason? Who should we send?
Mark
Mark Duplass, yeah.
Mark Duplass.
Because?
Because he's got to get shit done. And he needs a show to go on air at the time, and he needs you out of the...
Oh, I thought you were talking about Mark Duplass for real.
Oh.
When I was in jail, I called Mark. I called you first.
I was just going to say.
I called Mark. Yeah, I called you first. Then I called Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It feels like he could spin a story and get you out of jail.
See, I think it would be you.
Really?
Yeah.
I do that. I know people.
So I know that all the breaks of humor in the show, even in these very dramatic scenes, got a good reaction here tonight. People really responded to that element. Certainly, though, you wouldn't call it a dramedy. It's a drama, but there's a lot of humor. How did you, in development and working through as you were doing the scenes, find that balance of how much the comic note was going to be right?
I think it just was. My favorite kind of comedy is comedy that comes out of real life, So it wasn't really about how do we make this a comedic moment. It just was, because some of the things that were happening were hilarious. So it was just kind of, playing the truth of the moment.
I know that you both really wanted to work with Steve Carell on this, and yet so far I think only you even have had a scene with him in what we've gotten to see so far. In what we've tune in. But yeah, so it's like he's looming over the show those first 2 episodes, but really the only moment we have is when you go to his house and.
Oh, isn't that scene
Isn't
amazing?
that
By the way, that was my first day at work. Your first day at work. Sorry. That was my first day.
Was your first day shooting?
First day shooting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was like, hi, Steve, we've met twice. That's 15 years of partnership and betrayal. So, he's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Very solid, grounded. I don't think we could have imagined any other person because he's so lovable and he has such goodwill. You couldn't imagine any other actor playing the part of Mitch Kessler. He's just perfection, really.
Okay. Another very
so much more to
memorable-
come. There's so much more Mitch in the show too.
So he arcs through the whole season,
Yeah,
right?
through the whole season, so you get to really see what his life becomes like, which I really like about the show too. It's not really choosing who you like and who you don't. And I think, sometimes life is so bizarre, you have no way to process it. And this show really, I think, helps, show what his inner life is like and what happens to his wife and what happens to his kids and his reputation. And he does such an incredible job grounding that and making you really care for him as a human being, because he's a human being.
Yeah, who really does not understand what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
What I did.
The rules changed. One day he woke up and the rules changed and no one told him.
Yeah, and that's the charming narcissist. It's like, well, who doesn't want to? Everybody wants to be with me, right? I think those boundaries just don't, rude awakening.
Another very memorable moment from that scene we just talked about outside is when he says, you say, I miss you, or whatever it is, he says, me too, and you say,
I wouldn't use those 2 words together if I were you.
And
Perfect.
Great line, Carrie.
when you saw that in the table read or whatever, what was your response to that kind of moment?
Everybody laughed.
Oh.
Everybody laughed in the read-through. Everybody laughed a lot in the
A
read-through.
lot. And also, for one of the screenings, I was surprised, more than I anticipated.
Did y'all laugh?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I think you got a lot of laughs.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, this was a fantastic night. Thank you so much for being
Thank you.